What is up, everybody? This is Luis Martinez live from San Diego, California, as part of the San Diego Latino Film Festival 27th edition this year, virtualized for your convenience. Obviously, this is the time of year when we'd be hanging out with friends, watching movies live, meeting and talking with filmmakers, getting those sweet, sweet free perks like free Stellas in the artist tent. But unfortunately, due to the world in 2020, we are doing these festivals virtual. So please, today as we talk, let me know if you are enjoying the stream. Let me know which of your favorite films from this year's Latino Film Festival has been. And specifically, let me know what you think about the film that we watched today, which is called Bakosó Afrobeats de Cuba. And today, joining me all the way from Puerto Rico is Eli Jacobs-Fantauzzi, from the director of the film. How are you doing today, Eli?
Good evening, Luis. It's a pleasure to be here.
Un saludo. Thank you for coming on tonight. And then we also have his, I think it's your brother, right? Yeah, and one of the producers of the film, Kahlil Jacobs-Fantauzzi. How you doing today, Kahlil?
What's up? Sending love from Brooklyn.
BK, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. I'm glad we're all here together.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let's jump right into it. Bakosó Afrobeats de Cuba. The first thing that it says about your movie is it gives a lot of examples of modern music that is taking and appropriating beats and styles from the movement that is really a very unique thing to the Caribbean, to Cuba. Is the main reason that you guys took on this project sort of to counter that, or is there something innate about the music and the style that reverberated in you that made you want to kind of take on this project, Eli?
I think it's something that we see happen a lot. It happens all the time. When we look at rock and roll, right? Or when we look at jazz, or when we look at the blues, a lot of times the originators and the creators of the genre don't get the love that they deserve. And so when you think about Afro beats, it's something that's been around for a long time, but it's just now making it into the American music scene. And so you have people like Will Smith and Mark Anthony doing songs, or you have Drake and people pulling in from this influence, but not giving it the props, not saying where it comes from. And so I think that it's really important to know the roots. And the other reason that we made this film, first and foremost, is because a lot of people, when we talk about Latinos, we talk about our connection to Africa only about slavery, right? They just talk about, we have Afro Boricuas, let's say, but from the slaves that came over. And like, no, it didn't stop there. Like, our connection to Africa continues to this day. And so when we're looking at Bakosó, it was the African medical students that bring their music and bring their culture to Cuba and influence the music scene on the island. And so it was a way to uplift the Afro-Latino voice and also give props to the creators of this genre.
You're saying Drake borrows from other artists? I don't believe that part.
Something we all know to be true.
You might want to just fact check that. If somebody can live fact check that for us. Kahlil, as a producer, this is something that's taken you, to a country that normally, that's for lack of a better phrase, stuck in time. It's stuck in a certain era, from the cars to the culture to the thought processes in some cases. How did you find Cuba, or how big of an effort was it to sort of to say, we're going to do a doc, we're going to make it it's about this specific thing, and by the way, we're going to Cuba?
Well, for me, it actually was kind of like a cultural mission, but also like a political one. I wanted to see a different system. I wanted to see a country that did not base itself on capitalism. So my first trip out to Cuba was actually in the mid-90s. And the first film that we actually made is called Inventos, Hip Hop Cubano. It's a documentary about hip hop music. So that's what originally kind of connected us to the island. But we realized that a lot of the images and a lot of the ideas that people think about Cuba, they come from Havana, and which is the capital, obviously is the biggest city. It's also 90 miles away from the US. So there's that connect. But this film takes place in Santiago. Santiago de Cuba is all the way on the other side of the island. It's on the Caribbean side. It's very close to Jamaica, very close to Haiti. And it has a whole different vibe. So we really wanted to allow Santiago to get some shine and for people to experience a different side of Cuba, one that centers itself on its proximity and its connection to the continent of Africa.
Eli, you said that the connection that we make with Africa is just basically, it gives you a little bit of color in your skin as a Latino, right? That we try to kind of minimize the importance of it to the culture, but Cuba as an island is obviously one that has shifted, like every other place in the Caribbean, and that's been conquistado by either Spain or France or whatever, that has a lot of turmoil in its past. How did you did you guys look a lot into the history of the island past the musical influence, or did you guys focus more on the now and today of it?
So feel like if you're talking about the political the past of Cuba, it's not a direct a topic that we touch on. But this culture to exist the way it does is a direct relationship to its political history. And so for people to be able to speak Yoruba in their prayers is because they were able to hold on to the African legacy. They could still speak the language. And living here in Puerto Rico, that the colonization existed a lot differently than it did in Cuba. And they were able to hold on to a lot of those traditions much longer. Even the word Bakosó comes from that Yoruba tradition. It means the king is not dead. And so it was a celebration to celebrate the king is not dead. And it didn't necessarily have like the spiritual tie to it that you could just celebrate. And so they gave the genre that name because they saw it as a celebration of life, Bakosó.
Did you already have a relationship established with the DJ that we followed through the film, or did you guys connect for this project?
Yeah, definitely. So Kahlil talked about our first film, Inventos Hip Hop Cubano. And after we made that film, a lot of filmmaking is really extractive. They'll go to a community and just tell a story and never go back to that community. And so we believe with making films with the community, not just about them, but make it with them. And so we created what was called the Inventos Sankofa Tour, where we brought like artists and educators. We brought the first CDJs ever to Cuba so they could be scratching their own music. And we landed that when we came back to the island, we landed in Santiago de Cuba. And that's where that's where I met Hiwe. And that, that happened like 15 years before we even did Bakosó. And so we've been doing other projects. We have other albums that we've done. We have other short films that we've done together. And Bakosó is just our latest project together. But his name is DJ Hiwe, and check him out on all your platforms, DJ Hiwe. And the production company is called Guampara, which is a machete, Guampara Music.
Yeah, all right. I have a brother. We can get along together, but I don't know that I don't know that I would be able to produce a movie with him at the same time. Tell me a little bit about the relationship between you two as it comes to creative. I mean, like if you guys had a disagreement on set, did you guys ever pull the big brother, like put you in a headlock move to like say, no, it's going to be my way? How did that go?
I mean, I think that the fortunate thing is that we have a real long history of working together. Okay. So when I first got to Cuba, I was into, black and white photography, my old school camera. And I was like, yo, I need my brother to come with the video camera so we could start telling these stories. So we both, come at it artistically. We both come at it from a place of wanting to give props and share the magic of what was happening in Cuba to the world. And we're best friends. So we ride together. We ride hard together. So the work that we do, it's an honor to be able to to do it with Eli, and he has an amazing eye and amazing the process. So we work on it together. We talk through things, and we like creating magic.
Mm-hmm. Eli, you're the movie feels like it's almost, it feels almost like a narrative doc, like a hybrid, because of at the beginning. Like at the beginning, I'm like, all right, because one of the things I like the most about this festival is that I can watch movies without knowing anything about them. Right? They say, Luis, you're going to be doing this Q&A, so here's this movie, and I just see the title and I hit play, boom, and I just let it absorb me. So I'm watching this and I'm like, all right, cool. It seems to be moving. It feels like a music video. Okay, wait. Now it feels more like a narrative. And then towards the middle, it's like, okay, now I'm getting facts. Now I'm seeing culture. Now it feels more like a doc. Is that like mix, almost kind of like the music mix? Is that something that you strive for as far as not letting people get too complacent in what they're watching?
Yeah, it came naturally. We started this as an investigation. So Kahlil said our first film was about Cuban hip hop, and our second film was about West African music, like hip life and hip hop together. So it's called Homegrown, coming out of Ghana, West Africa. And so that was the birth basically of Afrobeats. So when I brought my second film to Cuba and showed Hiwe, he was like, yo, we're doing something similar in Santiago de Cuba. And so that's where the whole idea came to be. And when we went to Santiago, we were really interested in like how the music got there. And we talked to a bunch of academics, and we talked to people that studied the Caribbean and the flow of music. And that whole first part of the film, like the academic part, we ended up not using. We basically took it as research and threw it out. And then we figured, okay, how do we want to tell this story? We want the feel of the vibe, the music, the people. Let's do it on Hiwe's journey going back home. And so to place that all in and weave that all in together, we came up with that concept. So that's why you get the ideal of the feel of it being narrative, documentary, music video. But also we went and talked to Raul Millares to get that little academic when he talks about the cimarron. He's like, yeah, this is the Cuban spirit. You know, this isn't a people that lets their culture die, is on their way to cultural suicide. And so we thought that part was really important, and we wanted to uplift that. So yeah, we kind of touched on all of them.
Yeah, there's a good mix of different styles in there, and it's a fast moving documentary. You don't feel like it's dragging at any point, and you know you're moving. Like I said, I wear the black T-shirt mostly for the film, but I was like, I got to give something more tropical on today. I can't just be all dark and brooding for this. The reason I was asking too is there's another documentary that I watched that's part of the festival that's regarding Jose Lima, a famous Cuban poet and writer that you know, it's called Letters to Eloisa. And that's a much more like somber, kind of reflective tone on the island, the politics and stuff. And you guys are focusing on different parts, which just goes to tell you that for even what you would think would be a small sort of subgenre of films, which would be documentaries about Cuba, there is a wide range of infinite stories really there to tell. Who was in charge of putting together like the edit, like the back end of it once you had all the footage, and how long was that timeline when you first kind of laid it all? I'm assuming that, you know, for an hour-long film, there must have been like 5, 10, 15, 20 hours of footage. How'd you guys end up there?
Well, I mean, the first thing is that we made a very definitive decision to hire Cubans in working with us. So from the sound to a lot of the editing to some of the cinematography work, we hired an all Cuban crew because we really wanted to, number one, get like an insider perspective, but also support the economy of thriving artists and filmmakers in Cuba. So the process was a little bit laborious in terms of like, if we wanted to edit something, we'd have to find somebody to find a way, because the access to internet is very limited. So it required us to kind of go back to Cuba, keep going back so that we can continue working on the film. And when we make films, we really like to allow the music to kind of be a driving force. So you feel the energy of the music, you feel the energy of the dancing and the dancers, and that kind of drives the documentary in terms of the overall feel of the doc.
Okay. Now, what are your? Let's keep it with you, Kahlil, for a second. What is? I know you said you started taking black and white pictures and being more coming at it from an artistic point of view, but there's only so many pictures you can take of the Brooklyn Bridge. Like, when did you sort of evolve that into wanting to maybe produce films or tell different stories beyond the 1,000 words that we can get out of a picture?
Well, actually, the first time I picked up a camera was actually I was a high school organizer and activist, and we were organizing walkouts actually in Sacramento, California, and we organized this march that had 8,000 high school students at it, and we were demanding ethnic studies and demanding our rights and demanding
what was this? Around what time?
This was in the mid 90s,
okay.
Actually early 90s
in Brooklyn.
And no, this is in Sacramento, in California.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I missed that part.
Yeah. So we have this huge march and this manifestation, and we had invited all these news outlets and these press and media to show up, and no media showed up. And it was like, if we don't take photos and we don't document and we don't tell these stories, who's going to tell the stories? And so I think that when we look at what's happening with Bakosó and what's happening with the African medical students, what's happening with Afrobeats in the Caribbean and the Spanish-speaking island, we really feel like if we didn't tell the story, nobody else would. And so we kind of really realize that, that there's a power in telling people's story and helping people tell their own story. And that's the beauty of the documentary work that we do.
And Eli, obviously, so when you guys were working with you hired a Cuban crew in Cuba, right? So does that mean that there was a different DP each time, or did you guys keep it consistent? Because the movie visually, looks very crisp, very well lit. How big of a footprint did you have in terms of sound, lighting? How big of a crew did you have?
We kept it really small, and these are, again, folks that we've been working with for a long time. So it's not like we just went in there and just chose like random people. We've done other projects together, like Hiway's family, and we did our last project was called Tengo Talento. We did a series together. So we had some time together to be able to, and I think that's why that feel and that intimacy you get in the film. And I think one of my favorite scenes in the film is when we go to grandma's house, and how she opens up her altar to us. And I wasn't even sure that we'd be able to film that part, but she invited us in with the cameras, and right when they were done blessing Hiway on his journey, she took each member of the crew and gave him a limpieza también.
Oh, damn.
For sure.
You also recreated part of that sort of process in a couple of cutaways that are very stylized, like studio work and stuff like that. That's something that happened. Is that something that you guys added to the project later, or is that something that naturally kind of was like, oh, we got a chance to do this?
So it's in Cuban society, and especially Afro-Cuban society, you can't really talk about your identity separate from your spirituality. I think that when you see the people with the collares, when you see their understanding of their African spirituality is far deeper than I've seen in other places in the world. And so we knew, and Hiway has that connection, right, to his grandma, to the religion, and to his own spirituality. So we knew that we wanted that to be a woven in, not like separate from, but be a part of this journey. And so we chose to represent El Egua, and El Egua is the one that opens the door. Like when you begin a journey, you open with El Egua. But El Egua is also a trickster. So when they're at the studio and he has a concept, but he can't get it's not working. Also, you know, you get everything in life isn't gonna come easy. You gotta stick to it. And then El Legua is also the closing of the journey. And so those are 3 times that we kind of wove in this mystical part of life in Cuba's journey.
Did you guys film those in Cuba as well, or were those something that you did afterwards?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. With an amazing dancer that we've worked with in the past. Her name is Jenny Set. And she travels the world doing Afro-Cuban dance. And it's such an honor to be able to have her in the film. She's incredible.
All right, we got a couple of comments here. Somebody's watching all the way from Cuba. Neris Marero Ramirez says, "Oye, my bro."
Yo, Neris. Yo, he's an amazing DJ, man. For years and years. He used to rock with Real 70. I remember when I met him at Papa Humbertico's house. So this is some of the like Cuban hip hop days that we were talking about, and people that have really held the movement down. So much respect to you, Notice. Yeah.
Man, Notice watching all the way from Cuba. Represent. We've had viewers from all over the world in this festival. It's great to see a lot of Latinx talent. For your influences, Eli, I didn't necessarily feel, because I watched a million documentaries, and I didn't feel like maybe like sometimes I'll see a documentary filmmaker and you can tell that they've been influenced by like Oppenheimer or Ken Burns, or you know, or somebody like that. For you, I felt more there was like a stylized kind of music video influence, like a narrative film influence. Obviously, I told you at the beginning, but what were your first, you know, film influences? What was like the first movie you obsessed about growing up? Where did that love of storytelling come from?
Definitely from Big Bro, from moms and so my mom used to do light shows in like Amsterdam, and my dad's a musician. So I do music. I do films, which is playing with light about music. So it's like a merge of both of those. And definitely tried to, I think the documentary filmmaking industry has really done itself bad, that like people leave the theater feeling horrible about life. You know what I mean? I feel like there are ways and important stories to tell where you don't leave the theater feeling like the world is so messed up. That you could leave the theater dancing and feeling good, but also having learned something, also having a new trajectory, also feeling influenced by what you've seen. So some of the first films that I loved, my mom would always take me to Spike Lee films. She would take me and Kahlil out of school, and if he dropped the film, we'd go in to see the Spike Lee film. So Do the Right Thing was huge for me.
I was about to say Do the Right Thing.
And because it feels real, it's like it felt like a documentary. Do you know what I mean? And I'm happy to say that when Spike Lee came out here to shoot his last project, She's Gotta Have It Too, I got hired on the team, and I was able to do photography and the drone footage on the series. So one of my idols, somebody I look up to, was then hired me. So I know I'm on the right path. I know I'm on the right journey.
Oh, yeah, that's similar because I come from a musical family. My father is from Uruguay, and he was a tango musician for like 60 years. They wanted to get me into music when I was a kid, but I couldn't carry a tune. But I drifted towards art and film. That's kind of how I express myself. So everybody has to kind of find their own views. And when you guys, well, let me ask Kahlil, how about you? What was the first kind of movie that you obsessed about? Was it something similar, or
it was definitely about some Do the Right Thing in terms of the way that he was able to represent hip hop culture?
Yeah,
because at that time, you know, hip hop culture wasn't viewed, and you couldn't see it in the big screen. So I mean, that's, I think, like 8 blocks away. I'm in Bed-Stuy, so where he shot that film is actually not too far away. But another film that we really were fascinated by is called La Haine, which was the film that took place in Paris. And it also really kind of, the way that it drew in its characters, the way that it told the story was unique. And I think that those are some of the influences that impacted us so much.
No, absolutely, I agree. I love Spike Lee so much that when I was gonna make movies, instead of it saying a Spike Lee joint, I was gonna call it a Lou Martinez blunt. But but I went away from that because obviously, we got another message here coming in on the comment section. Hi, mijo, you're looking great. Mama Lila would be so proud. All right, here we go. Thank you, Diana Gonzalez, here for watching. I'm assuming that's
Hey.
relevant to you guys.
That's family. That's family. And Mama Lila's our mama. So definitely making her proud. She's in spirit, you know, and she's with us for sure.
All right, hot take time. Did Spike Lee drop off a little bit when he stopped working with Ernest Dickerson? A little bit, like a little tiny, a little bit.
He's
Not a lot.
The trajectory's always, you know, like, you know what I mean? So it's just a down to go up. You know, it's all a part of it.
It's all love, Spike. I'm just messing around. I had to throw a hot take in there for a second, just a little bit, just a little bit. Ernest Dickerson is, you know, there's all the man behind the man, you know, or the man standing next to the man. You often don't know about a lot of these collaborations between filmmakers and DPs, etc. So, I mean, obviously, you know, but so no disrespect to any of them. They were both masters in their own right. And I think Ernest Dickerson had to move on and start doing his own thing, obviously, you know, to kind of be his own man. But you do understand that there's a lot of stuff behind the music, behind the myth, behind all that.
And a film is never made by one person, even if it's a guerrilla filmmaker. You know, a film always has a crew, and it's so important to lift up that crew. And today we would have loved to have as much of the crew possible with us. We couldn't do it from Cuba, but I bring them out. You know, when we did New York, we had 3 of them. You know, we was out here rocking. We did the after party, so you could feel the vibe. You know, this isn't about me and Kahlil project. We actually made this film together, so they know that this is their project too.
No, absolutely. One of the things that I always come back to on my own streams and podcasts is that I read a book when I was growing up and began to have a love of film. And these filmmakers that were older than me gave me this book called The Collaborative Art of Filmmaker, which broke down Dead Poet Society from the perspective of the writer, the director, the actors, the editors, the sound, and each of them telling their story and their perspective on the project. And from then on, it's always been instilled in me that it is a collaborative art, which means that, like you said, you know, there's very few, you can call them auteurs that can really take something from birth to death, you know, on their own. You need a strong backbone behind that.
It's the way that our society works, man. It's crazy. It's like, you know, a basketball team. They'll pick one star and put him on all the billboards and put his name everywhere. But it's definitely the team that makes it work, you know. And so I think in American society, they always trying to pick that person to amplify and to glorify, knowing that it takes so many people to get this done. And that's why, like, looking at essential workers, right? Like, where are all the heroes running the country during COVID? The heroes are the people in the fields doing the work and getting us fed and getting us food. So I see that same thing throughout society, and we need to change it. We need to glorify the people that make it happen, and it wouldn't be possible without them.
Yeah, and when you got tired after your job, or you were bored and you couldn't leave the house for 3 months, what'd you do? You watched a movie, you watched a TV show, you read a book, you read a comic book, something that was created by an artist at some point. So, you know, I think that society needs to recognize artists as well as individuals that are important to the fabric of what isn't actually truly important. When you guys one of the things that you guys are missing out on, obviously, is being able to come to San Diego, you know, for the parties, for the Sabor Latino, for the other things. This festival got canceled like the day shit got real in California. It was like the day before. Is this festival going to happen? If it's not, and now it's been, you know, reimagined. Did you guys get a chance to show this in front of a live audience? Did you guys get that visceral reaction from people?
Let me tell you the story. I'm gonna tell you the story. So March 7th, I think it was, me and Kahlil are in Miami, and we got the crew there, and where we do the screening. It's a sold out screening. My birthday's on March 9th. So I'm super hyped going into my birthday. I actually fly March 9th in the evening time to California to do the Watsonville Film Festival and the San Diego Latino Film Festival. And the next day, I get the email saying it's canceled. Both of them are canceled. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just wait this out. You know, my flight leaves a little later, so I'll just wait. And then things just go downhill. So yeah, I was out in Cali for like 3.5 months before I even made it back to Puerto Rico. So, but we've done our thing, man. We got the best documentary film at the Belize International Film Festival. We did sold out screenings in Times Square with Urban World Film Festival that's going on right now. Check out that video, the recap video. That's the one that we had the crew from Cuba and we were big. And I love it, man. I love doing the big audiences, but I also love just doing it at the homie's house in the living room or these small independent film festivals. You get to relate to the audience and talk to them and build with them in a different way. And now we get to do it virtually. So it's another way of reaching people and being in their homes, you know? So I like it all. It's one of the parts of filmmaking that I enjoy most.
Stuck in Cali for 3 months. That doesn't sound too bad.
I mean, I think the other part that's been really cool is when the artists from the film get to see, you know, the community react to them. So I think for Hiwe, he also went to Trinidad to travel with the film. He's been to the United States, obviously, to show the film. And it's just magical to see the way that he connects with the audience afterwards, the way that he sees the audience responding to the film. And like Eli said, bigging up all the people that are in the film and that help us make the film. So we've been really blessed. And every time we have an opportunity to share it with our community, we appreciate it.
How have you been keeping busy, Kahlil? Did you get stuck in Cali? Did you get stuck in the Bahamas for 3 months? How you been passing the pandemic?
As I'm holding it down right here in New York. I'm actually also a teacher, so I teach middle school. So okay. I've been holding it down, doing the virtual teaching thing in Brooklyn, New York right now.
Okay.
Shout out to Kahlil students.
Okay. When you guys have moved around a lot. I mean, Sacramento, Brooklyn, Puerto Rico. Where do you guys? I mean, similar to myself. Like I've lived in Colombia, and Medellin, and New York, and Miami, and San Diego. Do you guys consider yourself more like citizens of the world, like, or where do you when you rest your head in Brooklyn or in Puerto Rico, where do you feel most at home?
I think we definitely both prescribe to the idea that we are citizens of the world, that we don't allow borders to dictate our identity or who we feel connected with. When we touch down in Puerto Rico, we got our fam there. When we touch down in Cuba, we got a community that we've been working with. And we actually did some work in Medellin as well, in Comuna 13, with some hip hop artists. So we built community. We were hanging out with community out there. So it's kind of amazing how you can build community anywhere in the world.
It's one of the things that taught me the most. And people say that you should travel the world. There's so much to learn and so much to see. But really, traveling the world taught me the most about myself. And I love a quote that says, a fish doesn't know that they're in water until you take them out of water. And so that's what I think Kahlil was talking about, living in this capitalist system. And this is the only thing that we knew and the government makes it illegal back then to even travel to Cuba, to even see a different system, to see what works, to see what doesn't work, to be inspired, you know? And I think it's what I love about traveling is that you get to be inspired, you get to learn about yourself, and you get to see that there's so many ways to do the things you thought there was only one way to do them.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about Fist Up TV? Is that a joint collaboration, or is that Eli that handles that?
For sure, that's the crew. Fist Up TV. That's everybody. It's kind of like the production company. It was born out of Clench Fist Productions, which was the first one that we started. And Fist Up TV, it really started when I was doing these long form documentaries, and I wanted to do short form storytelling. So I bought my first DSLR. You know, I have all this camera equipment, and all of a sudden I had just this little camera that does video. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna use this to just turn out videos and keep my blade sharp, you know? So during these long projects. So I was able to go to a protest or go to a concert. Like, and Anna Tijoux was in town. And so I'd interview her and film the show. And then the next day I'd have it up. So Fist Up TV was kind of born out of that. And now it's kind of taking its own life, telling these stories around the world, using music and culture to amplify voices that refuse to be silenced.
We got another comment here coming in for somebody watching. Adrian Xavier sending some love.
Yeah, Seattle family.
Seattle,
hey, what up?
Big up, fam.
Rainbows all around, rainbows and hearts.
Let's talk a little bit about representation in the culture, and as it becomes, because obviously diversity is a trendy word for stuff like that. I did a bit the other day in a stream where I was basically laughing a little bit at the people that were freaking out about the Oscar diversity initiative, because my point was I have to change 0 things about how I make films in order to qualify for an Oscar. And if having 30% of your crew or cast be a minority, women, different genders, identities, etc., is so hard for you, then you really need to have a conversation internally as a filmmaker about why, there was a lot of white people freaking out that oh, my art is going to be compromised. I can't really tell the story the way I want to. So, but how do you guys kind of respond to that?
I think that the whole reason why we picked up cameras and why we focus on the characters that we do is because the narrative hasn't had our voice. The narrative hasn't had our perspective. The narrative hasn't come from an Afro-Latino perspective. And I think that the work, there's a lot of work to do, and the representation of communities that have historically been underrepresented is critical. And I think that, if you see diversity and you see the beauty of it, then it's not going to seem like a penalty or a punitive act. It's going to see like we could actually get different perspectives. This can enhance the work that we're doing. So, I think that it's a change of how you see things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I at the end of the day, it's your film, it's your project. I always say, make the movie that you want. You're the artist. You're going to be judged by it, but at least you can think about the choices that you're making. Have an open ethnic casting policy. Allow yourself to think that there's people outside of your own circle that might be able to help you with a project and put a project forward. So obviously you guys are examples of that as well. The other part of that is that even within the Latinx Latino movement for films, there's also, the Afro-Latino movement that sometimes gets pushed to the back, because, there's Latino directors or directors that are winning Oscars that are technically Latino, but in as much as they relate to the American Latin experience, there are more foreign directors from Mexico and Spain and stuff that are coming to make movies here that are not necessarily making the movies with other Latinos. They're making them with like European crews and stuff like that. And then on our side, we have the Afro-Latino experience as compared to the more, like, I don't want to say pale, but the lighter skin Latin experience. So how important is for you guys to make sure that not only is it a Latinx thing, but it is an inclusive Latinx thing?
It's huge. I think having that time growing up in California, I found myself kind of in between the Latino and the Black community. I was in high school, I was in like, I think it was called Mesa, and then the Black Student Union. In college, I was part of the Black Recruitment and Retention Center, and what is it called? Mecha. So it's like, but there wasn't really any Afro-Latino or Caribbean influence in the West Coast. But then you go to the East Coast, and it's a whole different thing, or you come to Puerto Rico and it's a whole different thing. And so I think it's super important that we widen what it looks like to be Latino, because again, because of colonialism and because of white supremacy, let's be really real, our newscasters, our Latino programming, our series all have white faces and white legacies. So we have to make it an effort to tear those down and to put that diversity in. And we're not waiting for them. We're going to do it by ourselves, you know, and they better catch up because they're going to get left in the dust.
Absolutely. You want to expand on that, Kahlil?
No, I think that issues of, like he was saying, issues of colonization, issues of colorism. I think that both our African and our indigenous counterparts sometimes do not get the representation that they need. And I think that you know, as somebody who identifies as Afro-Latino, it's finally a part of the discussion. And I think that it's taken a lot of people who have pushed against the system to make sure that that these issues are being talked about. And so, you know, I think we're in a good space to have these voices amplified and to have this conversation. And I think that, you know, having places like the San Diego Latino Film Festival is a perfect example of safe spaces where we could have these conversations, where we could talk about the importance of including our African diaspora. And it's a good thing to have these venues and these opportunities. So thank you guys.
Oh, absolutely. One of the main reasons that I collaborate with the festival is because they always have an incredible inclusion of talent from all over the world and films that represent a variety of Latin experiences. You know, and I always, and to close that point up, I always think that, you know, even like I could take a look at myself and say, well, you know, I'm Latino, so you got these things against you when you're trying to get into the industry, but I'm also, you know, benefited from the Latin sort of patriarchy and being a man within the culture. So it's, and I'm also not dark skinned Latino or something like that might throw another strike against me. So it's realizing that, yeah, I'm in a position where I'm a minority, but at the same time, I also in a position of privilege, you know, amongst other people. Do you guys agree with that?
100%. We definitely have to look at our privilege. And when we look at our privilege, isn't just to like note it. Oh, privilege is to create space. And how do we create space, right? Because that's what we were fighting for. Like on this side, like you said, Latino, okay, we're fighting for space. We're fighting to be heard. Okay, so if we're privileged in this space, then how are we creating space for other voices to be a part of it? So it has to be more than words, right? And I think that's like, I want to big up Black Lives Matter. La vida negra es important. It's like, it can't just be a word. It has to be about action. And I think when you see Bakosó, it is that. It's like Black Lives Matter because we matter. Our culture matters. Our history, our ancestors matter. And this is a representation of that.
In one of the biggest pander moves in recent political history, Trump just approved billions and billions of dollars of aid to Puerto Rico that had been being held up for like 3 years. For 3 years, they couldn't find the checkbook. They had hurricanes. They were throwing fucking bounty paper towels into the roads. They're like, oh, Puerto Rico gets too much money. They're corrupt. All of a sudden, you need Florida Puerto Ricans on your side. Then they approve billions and billions of dollars in aid. Nobody's going to turn down the money, number one. But on the island, is that reading as the pandering that we sort of kind of see it as from the outside?
So one thing straight, let's get this completely straight. Puerto Rico is still a colony of the United States. So we get drafted to fight in the wars. We die in the wars and we don't vote for we can't vote for the United States government. So he didn't do that for Puerto Ricans here because we can't vote for the United States government. He did it for the Florida vote. And we've been promised after Hurricane Maria and after the horrible response from the government, they said that they were going to give X amount of dollars. That never came in. And for them to put a small percentage of that X amount of $1 billion and say, oh, look what I'm doing. It's like, no, you said you were going to give this much 3 years ago. Where's that money? Don't make a big deal about you releasing some of the funds. Give us the full money or just release the illegal debt. You're talking about we owe $72 billion to Wall Street and bond holders. It's a long subject, but I have a project about it. It's called Defend Puerto Rico. If you want to learn about it, go to defendpr.com or look us up on Instagram, Facebook, and all of that.
Okay, I was, you know, I didn't know you were gonna go off that hard on it, but you know, speak your mind on it, man. This is the late night stream. There's no other Q&A scheduled afterwards, so we can go a little bit off topic. Yeah. How about for you, Kahlil? How does that resonate with the Puerto Ricans up north in New York and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, I think that I think people see it for what it is. I think people see it as a political move, as an attempt to try and get Latino voters and Puerto Rican voters on board. But I think that if you're looking at the situation of Latinos and Latinx communities, they've already bared witness to the tragedy that this current president has created for us. So I think that, like what Eli was saying, the history of Puerto Rico being a colony of the United States, us not being given the opportunity to really define the future that we want for ourselves, is the basis for the challenge that we see ourselves in. And I, you know, and he's, the current president is not even trying to touch that issue. He's trying to throw money at it. And when you throw money at a problem that's that deep, you're not getting to the root of the problem or talking about the root issues of the problem.
Kahlil, I know, you know, are you guys tied into each other in as much as like the Defend Puerto Rico project and all your future projects like that? Do you guys sort of check in with each other when the next thing is up, or, you know, do you guys have the ability to sort of, you know, kind of branch out and say, yeah, you know, but I kind of want to do this little small thing, and I kind of want to do this small thing where you guys separate, you know, and then like Voltron come back together?
Yeah, we are always in touch, and we always get each other's feedback in terms of like support and ideas. But we do our own projects, and then we bring it back to the table and say, okay, how could we big each other up? How could we work together to make it even bigger than something small? So we have our own projects, and we've worked independently. But most of the film work that you see are featured length documentaries, are projects that we've come together and worked on. And it's not something that takes a couple months. It's not just something that takes a year. Documentary filmmaking, the way that we do it and the process to do it, it takes several years to do. So it's a long process. And luckily I have a brother who's willing to roll with me through all the ups and the downs.
Sure. Our next project is called We Still Here, and it's actually about Hurricane Maria, and it's about the same thing I was saying about the industry, that we're not going to wait for the industry to change. We're going to change it. We're not going to wait for FEMA or the government to come and give the response needed after the hurricane. So this small community came together and said, what are you good at? Oh, you do construction? Let's put up roofs. Oh, what do? You cook food? Okay, cook food okay, what do you want to paint? Let's paint. And so it's basically what a just recovery looks like after a disaster. And it's called We Still Here. You could go to westillherepr.com and see the trailer on that. But that's our next project that we're going to release sometime this year. And it's a timely film, because, you know, our world is in a disaster right now. And so, like, what does a just recovery look like, right? A recovery that's not from the top down, that's not throwing the paper towels or throwing water bottles out of helicopters, that's really down to make some of those systemic changes. Say, okay, what do you envision for your society? What do you want to, we have to rebuild. How do you want to rebuild, right? And really making those systemic changes. And so we're looking forward to birthing that film in this climate, in this time right now.
Eli, if you could work with one personality, actor, you know, in the near future, what would that be for you? Who would that be?
Shit.
Would it be a Drake video?
Definitely not. I have to go with Spike again, man. I loved my experience. Let me tell you a real quick Spike story. So a lot of the people that we put on a pedestal, they don't live up to our expectations. And I've learned that. Spike, we were doing a shot in Loíza, right? And it was on the beach. And they had to stop the fishermen from fishing to get this scene. So the producer asked them, they were like, okay, cool. And for a few hours, they didn't fish. And it was him and the producer walking back, and I stayed behind to do some film. So I'm kind of running to catch up. They're the last ones walking. And I hear him turn to her and say, make sure to compensate those fishermen. That's their livelihood. You know, we stopped them from doing their life. They're catching fish to feed their family and stuff like that. So it wasn't for no lights. It wasn't for no press. It wasn't for no big up or a pat on the back. He was genuinely looking out for people. And that's the kind of people I want to roll with. And that's the people that I'm inspired by. So I would love to work with Spike again.
Doing the right thing when nobody's watching, right?
Or when they are watching. Just
Exactly.
do the right thing.
Just do it. As far as the right thing goes, always
Just do it. Then go to Nike. Then you go to Morris Blackman and Jordan.
It's got to be the shoes. We got another comment here coming in. I don't know what part of the world this is going to come in. Let me know. Tell me. Ustedes son fuego. Much love. Thank you for this. Shefali Shah.
Esa es mi comunidad Boricua, California. That's our sister, man, representing the bomba culture. And that's that tradition, keeping that culture and the tradition alive for the next generation. Big love.
One of the things that sort of shocked me when I went from the East Coast, because obviously I'm Colombiano, Uruguayo, so I'm mixed like white and dark Colombia, like I'm a mix inside of a mix, and growing up in New York and Queens, I didn't see a lot of racism around me because, growing up in Queens in the middle of all this, you're surrounded by this culture, right? You come out to California, it's not as united. There's a lot of prison culture that permeates onto the streets where black and brown aren't necessarily together all the time, things like that. When you guys are leaving New York, leaving Puerto Rico, stuff like that, does that sort of lack of, and it has changed. Like now in California, there's a bigger Colombia community, more Puerto Ricans, more people. But does that ever shock you in terms of the places that you go where we're not as united as we should be?
I think that, the history of divide and conquer kind of has been realized on the backs of black and brown folk, especially if you're taking a look at California. And there's so many parallels and so many similarities, but the way that the system has put oppressed people in situations where they feel like they are fighting each other to get a crumb, or where they feel like they could only exist if the other one gets pushed out. It is disheartening, and it is something that we have to continue to fight against. And I think that, through Afro-Latinos being around and people seeing people with darker skin, black skin, speaking Spanish, I think that, me and my brother, we saw ourselves as kind of as people that could help bring that conversation to the forefront and bring the communities together, bring Black folks and Latino folks together so that they can see the commonalities, see the similarities and struggle, and understand that we have to have each other's back if we want to be successful in terms of advocating for each other and seeing a brighter future and a better future for each community.
How do you feel about that, Eli? You agree? I'm assuming, since it's your brother.
Yeah, definitely. Divide and conquer. And even within, it comes from colonialism. And literally, you can't fight the oppression if you're fighting each other. So it makes perfect sense, and we got to be able to look at that, recognize it, and then deconstruct it.
Excellent. I think running around Brooklyn with that, if you put that hoodie up, you got kind of like a ghost dog thing happening, Kahlil. A little way of the samurai walking around.
Got some pigeons on the roof.
You got pigeons on the roof? Oh, he's like the Puerto Rican ghost dog? Okay. There you go.
As long as it has a soundtrack like that, then we good. The soundtrack we slapping.
Underrated classic right there. We got a couple of questions and some comments coming in. We got one coming in from let me get this up here on the screen. And also, Eli, if you want to drop those links to Defend Puerto Rico and your other things, drop those in the private chat. I'll put them up at the banner so people can see what's up. But we have a question coming in from Alexandra P. Gilbride. Thank you so much for such a strong interview. No doubt. A question: what was the most challenging aspect of creating the Bakosó documentary? Whoever wants to take that one, go ahead.
I'll go first real quick. I think big up Alexandra. Thank you for the question. Working, remotely is difficult, and getting the, we don't got funding like that. We created this film completely out of our own pocket. Kahlil as a teacher, me doing freelance work and funding it. We didn't get any film funding for this. And so all those trips back to Cuba, but also trying to work and edit and like communicate. But this isn't just anywhere in the world. This is with Cuba, and the technology and the communication is different. And they do, like I said, they do it for a reason, right? So those phone calls are trying to get in touch with folks was super difficult. And I think it would be harder than any other place maybe in the world was. So yeah, I think that was my hardest part. What about you, Kay?
I just think that the history between the countries of Cuba and the United States has been one in which the U.S. continues to try and find ways to make it hard to live, to survive, to be alive. So I mean, I think that the embargo and all the challenges that come with it was one of the things that made making this film the most difficult. But it's also, I think, part of the reason why we wanted to make the film is for the people that are afraid, that hear the news about Cuba, that believe in all of the one-sidedness of the argument. We wanted to really allow the Cuban people to tell their story and for their experiences to be seen and felt.
All right, excellent. Let's go to the next comment or question here coming in from Rina Valentin. I genuinely love the way you guys articulate our state of being through your films and choice of language. Humanity first. Pa'lante, abrazotes, hermanos Fantauzzi. All right. Thank you for the comment,
Rina, representing the Bronx and El Barrio.
Oh, the Boogie Down's in the house. All right, man. We got people from Cuba, California, everywhere coming in today. Angelica Salazar says, love y'all. Thank you, Angelica.
Angelica does amazing work in Cuba as well. And she's in the Bay Area, yep, and the U.S. blockade on Cuba.
Big time. Big time. There's a big fight. Especially, I mean, just think about it with COVID, right? Like there are medicines and vaccines and medical reasons why we should end the blockade. Getting people, like on both sides in Cuba and here, we're making people suffer and lives are at stake, and we have to end this blockade.
When is that something that you guys are going to tackle in Defend PR?
No, that's Cuba.
Oh, so sorry, my bad. I'm getting my islands mixed up. I'm trying to keep up with the comments here, but
we'll deconstruct colonialism on these NPR. We'll deconstruct colonialism for you.
At least you guys aren't like doing like hour-and-a-half long documentaries about like a cupcake.
Ken Burns on one photo.
Very yes. Yeah. Mother, the war has been hard on me here in Puerto Rico. When you guys consider okay, let's say you guys are Latino filmmakers in the 90s in New York, right? Or something where, doing experimental stuff like that versus being a Latinx filmmaker in 2020. Do you feel that there's an added weight or pressure on your shoulders to shine? Sort of, because I mean, once you become somebody that, and you're in festivals, you're getting some exposure, you're getting to work with some bigger people, you're getting a little bit of a reputation for yourself. Does the pressure, like obviously it's your passion and it's something that you want to do, but does that pressure to sort of represent the culture sort of ever creep up on you guys? Does that weigh heavily on your mind as you guys are deciding what moves to make?
I'll go first. Not at all. For me, it's like an honor and a pleasure to be able to represent the culture and to be allowed into these spaces, right? And literally into ceremony, into people's homes. Like what a huge honor that is. And I think it's also about where do you want to be? And if I had this goal, you know, I've been doing this for close to 20 years. If I had a goal of, oh, I wanted to be on Warner Brothers, or I wanted to be picked up by this, and that was my only goal, then I'd be frustrated. But my goal is to be happy, to be healthy, to help my communities heal, to spread knowledge, to learn, and I can say that happens every single day. And right, what an honor, what a pleasure to be able to do what I love in this world. And so few people can say that they do what they love, and it's a dream.
How about you, Kahlil?
I mean, I think that, you know, having made films now for, you know, 20 plus years, I think that, you know, the first time we put together making a film, we really had very little resources. So although we're not talking about huge figures and big money, the type of equipment that we're working with, and our knowledge that we've built up really has brought us to a level where we've expanded our skills, and where we're able to do it in a way that we're proud of our work. And it's been a growth process, and it's been many years in the making. And I think Bakosó kind of shows that and demonstrates where we're at and the hard work that we put in.
Excellent. I mean, as somebody who's made 2 features on very limited budgets, I can understand like putting your own money into a project, putting your own blood, sweat, and tears. Even when you talk about an independent project that you say, hey, it was, you know, if you count the hours of people that donate their time, the talent and the skill that they learn, and there's no such thing as a zero budget independent film. Everything has a human cost and a cost of, you know, a real cost. How do you guys, even if you're working on a project and you can't necessarily compensate necessarily what people their real worth is, how do you build that community and that group, that team, you know, beyond paying somebody?
So I just want to say it comes from our years of work, being in this community and doing the work. So I've been there with the camera, or documenting, or doing photos. Kahlil's been there with me on the front lines when we're protesting, when we're fighting for our rights. Like, they know me and I know them, and we're going towards the same direction. And I think that's also why when we do crowdfunding campaigns, they're successful. And we don't ask for the 100,000s or the 200,000. You know, we ask for what could we do this project by? And if our people could get us there, and then we get grants and other things, that's a plus, and we could do a bigger budget film. But we start with our people. If we could get this much, we'll make the film with that much if we have to. And it's just about a reciprocal relationship. And if what do you need from me, and how can I be there for you? And I feel like it's the same. And DJ Huey is a perfect example of that. It's like we've been rocking together for over 15 years. Most recently, we're creating like this Airbnb experience artist residency in Cuba that's going to be able to bring up his whole family and put his work on. And he's already been doing that. And so he puts me on, I put him on. It's mutual beneficial. And it is literally like, when you shine, I shine. You know, we're not trying to dim anybody's light. We're not trying to step on anybody. It's like we coming up together.
And I think another way of looking at it, when you talk about financial capital, we may not have the largest financial resources, but we have social capital. And as Latinos, and as people like Eli was saying, who are doing political work and doing educational work, we have social capital in terms of like, oh, I got a friend who knows this person, who can connect you with this person. So it's also not just about like how much money you have. It's about those relationships and building those relationships so that we can support each other and make things happen with little financial resources, but as a community coming together, as a family coming together to make things happen.
And I'll just say, break bread. Like that's the old documentary industry that says you can't pay people that have been in your film, or you can't. And they take that money and they get breaded, and they get in their lives, and their jobs are getting blowing up. And while those same communities that you're like, oh, they're being oppressed, are still being oppressed. So yeah, pay them. and break bread. And during COVID, we did we're sending money back. We're about to do another one. Like folks can't even work right now. If your industry is based off of tourism, or you're a musician doing shows and you can't do shows, you don't have money coming in right now. So break bread. The little that you got, whatever you got. If you got money coming in, break bread.
Show me the money. I think obviously another part of that, more like what I'm talking about, is when you're talking with like DPs, editors, stuff like that. If you bring somebody on to collaborate with you, there's a difference between getting somebody to collaborate with you because you admire their style versus getting somebody to work for you for free. So if I'm like saying, okay, Eli, I want you to direct this project for me that I wrote, and then I'm like, but I want you to shoot it this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. Then I'm not really wanting to collaborate. What I want to do is, I'm telling you I want to collaborate with you, but I really want you to do is work for me for free. So that's kind of the angle that I'm coming from, where if it's a true spirit of collaboration and you're bringing on an editor, don't be over their back their whole time. Let them shine. Let them do their thing. Let them put a little bit of themselves and have a little stake in the game, as opposed to, you know what I mean? Does that make sense to you guys?
For sure. But again, make it reciprocal. Like if I'm directed for you for free and you get embedded on the backside, somebody then break bread. Yeah. So, or like if I got my next project, I want you to produce this. Then I can't do it right now, but I could do it next month. Boom, then we on.
Absolutely. All right, let's catch up on comments here. How you guys doing on time? You guys all right? You guys good? All right, cool. Let's keep it moving then. All right. The Jones Act would be a great story to educate people on. Repeal the Jones Act. Yes, absolutely. How you guys feel about that?
Jones Act. So we're talking about the money that they're supposedly giving Puerto Rico back from Hurricane Maria. But this is from when the U.S. took control of Puerto Rico from Spain. And they've been getting money every year from our shipping industry. It's called the Ley de Cabotaje. And they make us, if a ship is coming from Jamaica next door or Santo Domingo, they make it go back to the U.S. They tax the hell out of it. It has to be, I'll say manned. It has to be personed by a complete American crew. Then they bring it back to Puerto Rico and it get taxed again. So they've been making millions and millions on this old law that doesn't make any sense for years. I'm not going to make that film. I do films that are uplifting about music and culture and happiness, but I'll tell you about it, and you can learn about it at defendpuertorico.com.
Which Defend Puerto Rico? All right, let's put that one. Let's make sure we get that out. All right, there we go.
There's a lot of history, a lot of information to learn. So,
no, absolutely, man. You guys are educating me right now. Like I said, my favorite part of doing these things for the festival is watching movies that I have no idea about. I'm a filmmaker. I was accepted into the festival a few years ago, and ever since then, since it's my hometown festival, I'm like, whatever you guys need, Q&As, interviews, what have you. And I've watched maybe 50 movies over the last 2 weeks, and I am humbled by the vast talent of Latinx, from Latinx, Cuban, Puerto Ricans, Colombians, Mexicans, Guatemala. There's a film that I watched called Días de Luz. That was a collaboration between 6 different production crews and directors all over Central America. And they told a cohesive story with 6 storylines, one of them in Panama, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras, Costa Rica, each one self-sustaining little storyline. It's all put together into one film. It's like the basic definition of too many cooks, pero el sancocho con el que salieron, like, it came out so dope. I mean, it was a very moody film, but I was just like, wow, 6 different directors, all from Central America, different parts, coming together to make a project, like the Cuban director Adriana Bosch that did the Letters to Eloisa, you guys doing Afro-Cuban beats, movies about building the American dream, about migrant workers in Texas that are being denied their wages, border stories. Like, humbles, like it floored me how much. This is my favorite part about this, is getting to know you guys. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to the festival, to show your film virtually at the festival. Just wanted to get that out of the way, and make sure.
Louis. Thank you for you dedicating so much love. You know,
Yeah.
it takes time and energy to watch all these films. Make that a part of your schedule. You got family, you got, you know, business to handle, and you're taking the time out of your day to support other filmmakers, to watch films, and then to lead these discussions. So we're thankful to you, Luis. Respect.
No, thank you, brother. And just to, I mean, we're gonna keep going for a little bit, but I just want to make sure everybody understands the next projects coming up for you guys are defendpr.com, where you can learn about that. We got WeStillHerePR.com as well. And if you guys want to catch up on what I'm doing, just look for Facebook.com/2am burrito. Or if you look for 2 a.m. burrito anywhere.
I'll be on that in Cali. I'll be on that.
No.
Burrito, man. Go too.
Well, I mean, I'm from Queens. I'm Colombian, you know, but when I've been out, I might as well be Mexican in Southern California, because I've been in Cali for like 17 years. I left New York. I didn't come back. When I first came out here, I'd find New Yorkers that were here from like the 80s. And they're like, yeah, I came out in the Navy in 86 and I never went back to Brooklyn. And I'd be like, fuck that shit. I'm going back to New York. I got to go back. But then when I came out here, I was like, the beach, the women, the weed, burritos. And when we came up with the 2 a.m. burrito name, we were like, they were just, my friends just clowning me, because after a club or after the casino somewhere, it was like 2 a.m. Let's grab a burrito. Let's head home. If you're in New York, it's going to be a slice of pizza, or like, you know, going to a diner. You know what I mean?
Kahlil, add joint on the end of that. The 2 a.m. burrito joint. They would have thought you was a restaurant, bro, not like a production crew.
Yeah, so we just went with the silly, you know, if Kahlil, when he's at it 2 in the morning, he goes get some like vegan, organic, sustainable Brooklyn, you know, like
roti.
Something out there, right? All right, let me ask you a couple of New York questions, Kahlil, and Eli, jump in case you have this. I do a bit sometimes with my people. So, all right, let me see if you get this right. A true New Yorker test. Is it Ray's Famous Original or Famous Original Ray's? Which is the spot you go to? You got to get a slice. Where are you going? Ray's Famous Original Ray's. Which one?
Serengina's.
Oh my God. All right. You got to get it.
You have to realize that I'm like 2.5 years into living in New York, so this is
okay. Got it.
I'm not going to do too good in your scoring.
Okay, my bad. This is my fault. I was going to ask you Street Dog or Frank's Papaya. You got to have been to a Frank's Papaya at least at some point.
I've seen it. I'm a vegetarian, and I walk right by.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So you see
it, and I'm like, yeah, I see you.
You feel it. All right. Good. All right. But what's your favorite part about like being a filmmaker, man? Like, what is it that for me the two favorite parts of being a filmmaker is day one, shot one. When you've done all this work, you've got everything ready, and it's like you're about to physically start a project. And being in a theater watching like a visceral reaction to a movie that I made, somebody laughing at something that I wrote, things like that. For you, what is the thing that's the number one best part about being a filmmaker for you, Eli?
Number one is every film that I ever do, it goes, you know, I screen it for the community first, that it's about or who we do it with. So for Bakosó, we went back to Santiago de Cuba. We rented a theater and we screened it with the families and friends and the work, everybody all together. And man, that's always the most touching, to have the grandma there, you know, in tears, to have people like realize the impact that they have on the world, that what they create, what they do. We have the opportunity, like I said, me personally, I have the opportunity to travel the world. And it gives me a better idea to be able to see myself in what I do. But if you're in Cuba and you can't leave because of the restrictions, film is a way to see yourself outside of yourself. And I feel like that's a great gift to be able to give people and show them like how beautiful and important the work that they do. So that's always my favorite part is this offering back after all that work that we've done together. I offer this and I say thank you.
Kahlil?
Yeah, I think the same thing as what Eli said, and also like really having the opportunity to travel the world and to really find stories that resonate with us, what our sense of purpose is on this planet, and finding ways of sharing that story and getting it seen, you know, by the largest amount of people possible. And so, see, I also think what you said, Luis, was when you see community relating to it, they're like, oh, that's, you know, she reminds me of my abuelita, or the way that they dance looks like how my community dances in Ghana, or like the interconnectedness of how people see themselves and see reflections of themselves in the work that we produce.
Now, I want to circle back to the movie for a little bit, because we were supposed to do 35 minutes and we're at 1:20 right now. So nothing. I mean,
hey, it's midnight out here, bro. It's midnight.
Hey, but that's why they let me do the last one scheduled for the day, because they know that I tend to go along a little bit. But I just wanted to touch on this because I had forgotten about it. You know, there's the main story about DJ. Well, I'm forgetting his name right. DJ Hire. And did he make the decision on what of the other smaller artists to sort of focus on? Because I feel like you give a little spotlight to a couple of other artists. Can you guys tell me a little bit about how those artists have progressed since the film? Like, are they blowing up in certain areas? I know Heatwave is doing his own. You're helping him do a thing, but tell me a little bit more about like where those artists are at, because I feel like I was like trying to be like, oh, let me find this guy here. Let me write down this name real quick so that I can go back and, you know, check it on Apple Music or Spotify or something, or YouTube, right?
Definitely. So it happened naturally. You know, we went back to Cuba or to Santiago. He's living in Havana, so we went back to Santiago, and we wanted to know what the scene was like, and so we were checking in with people like, yo, what's cracking? What's the word? So we go to that big show and we meet Michael Padrino, and he's like, yo, come to Manicomio Records, come to Kiki Pro's house. And so then we go to Kiki Pro's house. So that part naturally kind of progressed. Like, oh, you should talk to, oh, he's the one that did that first song that blew up. Like, you should go talk to him. And people that I'll say that I'm really inspired by is, I'll say Cameroon. So Cameroon.Cuba. Make sure to check him out. He recently is outside of Cuba and has his hands on new technology, and what he's doing with that technology is just blowing my mind. Also, I'll say the Rey de Bakosó, the King, Oscaro Delgado. You could check him out on, he uses SoundCloud. So that's where mostly he posts his stuff up. Also, our cinematographer in Santiago is blowing up. His name is Ray, and he's doing amazing music videos. We're about to drop the Bakosó Dance Challenge, and so he has like all these videos stacked up for us of like the young kids going off dancing Bakosó. So yeah, check out those folks. You know, everybody's doing their thing, but those are the ones that really inspire me right now.
All right, let me catch up on a couple of last comments that have come in. Another one, qué orgullosos son ustedes. Thank you very much for watching, Shefali. And you both make us very proud, PR. Thank you, Rina. Thank you very much. Yeah, I honestly, like I said, the fact that the Latin culture, the Latinx culture, goes from somebody like my dad is from Uruguay. He's lily white, and you know, and he plays in the tango music and all that stuff from Argentina, Uruguay, to all the way to Cuba. You know, with the Afro Latino movement, like the Latinx, you know, color scheme, so to speak, it transverses the entire spectrum of people that can proudly and resoundingly call themselves, you know, part of the Latinx culture. So the fact that you guys
not
are
in our community, in our own families.
Yeah, inside, yeah,
You know
everybody's got like this mixed palette of people, you know. It's not just the caramel complexion anymore, you know. Well, I mean, it never was, but you know, you guys understand what I'm saying. So the fact that I get to talk to people with different voices, much respect to you guys. what is the, like, I know that we're talking about your next projects being We Still Here, PR.com, defendpr.com, and then Fist Up TV is where they can also kind of look up to you. One last question about that in terms of like the Fist Up TV film festivals. What is that about? How can people get in? How can people get involved with that? And where did that come from for you?
Yeah, so after we did our first film, Inventos Hip Hop Cubano, I would go to all these dope independent film festivals like the San Diego Latino Film Festival. I would present my work, but I would also see, just like what you were saying, I see these amazing films. And I was like, how come they don't ever make them back to my community in the Bay Area where I was living? And how do I get these films to my community? And so we started the Fist Up Film Festival. We just finished our 11th annual in May. We had to do it virtually as well. And so next year will be our 12th annual. So over a decade, we've been bringing independent films about revolution, about change, about culture, about music, about progress to the Bay Area. And it feels really good. We do it free every year. No submission fee for film festivals, because it's kind of like the music industry, man. They got this game messed up. Like, as a filmmaker that spent my last penny on a production, I have to pay the film festival. And then most of the times you have to pay your own way to the film festival. And then they're charging people $10, $15 to enter the theater. And you don't see any of that. And you just paid for promotion to people to show up. So the game was upside down. So we're trying to bring it right side up. We did it free for filmmakers. We try to pay them if we get grants. We pay the filmmakers. We try to bring them out if we can and when we can. And it's free for the community. So we'll rent like the Grand Lake Theater in downtown Oakland and just open it up. All they got to do is RSVP. So just know that this festival is here for y'all. If you're a filmmaker, if you got a story to be told that you want to bring out to the Bay Area, it's the Fist Up Film Festival.
All right, cool. And any last thoughts from you, Kahlil? What do you want people to sort of come out of the theater when they watch this, or when they see it virtually, or when they see it in the future? What do you want people to really, get out of watching not only this project, but your future projects?
I think that we really want to, invoke a sense of pride, a sense of realization, a sense of understanding. I think that, when you see something that touches you, that motivates you, that resonates with you, you feel like you've been awoke, and we want to continue making those connections and continue allowing people to see the beauty of Cuba, of Santiago, of Afrobeats in Cuba with Bakosó, and also exploring some very important issues when it comes to Puerto Rico and understanding what happened directly after Hurricane Maria.
All right, excellent. Well, let me just run down, make sure that everybody knows who we're talking about, what we're talking about. We're talking to Kahlil and Eli. They're the producer and director of Bakosó Afro-Cuban Beats, movie that just screened at the San Diego Latino Film Festival, 27th year, one of the iconic film festivals for Latinx talent in the United States, one of the major ones. If you guys want to know more about them, there's 3 main websites I'm going to put up for you right now. Make sure that you check them out. defendpr.com. All right, get schooled. We Still Here PR.com. All right. And then for the festival, fistuptv.com. All right. Now, obviously, like that's important to me, because I think there's this entire industry built around the backs of filmmakers where we're making our own projects, we're spending our own money, and you want to charge me $60-$70 to enter a film festival because it's the late deadline. And some of these film festivals, and I do a whole rant about making sure that you spend your festival money wisely. Anything that's a monthly festival is shit. I don't want to see any of your laurels coming from like the Oakland or Miami March Film Festival. That's no good. No bueno. It used to be, or like the Rise Up like incentive. Anything where you're like guaranteed to get in because you gave them money is bullshit. Those are bullshit laurels. Stop throwing that up. Spend your money wisely on legitimate film festivals. It used to be if it was a virtual festival, you could kind of push it to side. This year, you got to do your homework. You got to make sure that a film festival is established 5 to 7 years. It's got good reviews. It's actually people. We are very lucky in San Diego. The Horrible Imaginings Film Festival is curated by Miguel Rodriguez. He is a beast and he cares a lot about the films. Ethan, Moises, Juan, San Diego Latino International Film Festival, they really put a lot of effort into curating. Shout out to them. But yeah, most importantly, Kahlil, Eli, shout out to you guys, man, for doing your thing. I appreciate you guys as filmmakers. I appreciate that you guys are putting in this work. So I want to thank you specifically, from California. If you guys need, I'll talk to you guys or I'll email you guys offline. I want to be able to connect with you guys for future stuff, man. Absolutely. That's kind of like my perk for doing this is I get to connect with a bunch of filmmakers from across the world. But thank you very much for watching, everybody. Any last words from you guys?
Gracias, Luis. And when I'm out in San Diego, 2 a.m. burrito, you already know.
Oh yeah, it's on deck. It's on deck, babe. And then if you guys want to follow me again, Facebook.com 2am burrito or 2am burrito all over the board. Thank you guys again. Thank you for watching.
You so much.
Everybody support the San Diego Latino Festival. Go watch these guys' movie. Keep up with them. Follow them. Support them. All right, guys, we out.
Thank you so much. One love.
One.